There's this feeling you can get in life, right? Especially I think in romance. It feels like absolute destiny, like this profound, almost singular obsession with someone.
Yeah, that's certainty.
Exactly. You're just completely certain they're your soulmate. Maybe you've waited years or chased them or just felt their presence in your life for ages.
And that intensity, that, jump in your chest when you even hear their name.
It feels like proof. Like this has to be love. It's so strong.
And that's really where we want to start our deep dive today.
Mm-hmm.
Because despite all that extraordinary devotion, that passionate feeling,
Yeah.
there's one crucial, really fundamental question that people in this situation, they almost never stop to ask themselves.
Okay, I'm hooked. What is this unexplored question? Because, our mission today is sort of to cut through all that intense fog of obsession, right?
Yeah.
And find the simple truth underneath.
It is simple. Maybe surprisingly simple. Almost too basic for this epic soulmate kind of romance.
Okay.
The question is just, is the person I love nice to me?
Nice. Wow. That sounds so small, doesn't it?
It does.
Like something you'd want in a work colleague, maybe? Not the absolute foundation for a life-altering love story.
Exactly. But what we find is that people caught up in this consuming passion, they're certain about the chemistry, the connection, maybe the future they imagine.
But not kindness.
But if you actually look at the facts,
Yeah.
the day-to-day reality, is that person consistently, reliably kind?
Yeah.
And often the answer is, well, it's confusingly no. Or maybe sometimes.
Yeah.
Which isn't enough.
Right. So the paradox we're diving into is why all these amazing qualities, the charm, the brilliance, whatever it is, seem to completely overshadow something as basic as just decent, consistent kindness.
That's the puzzle. Why does that intensity, that electricity, outweigh actual kindness? And why is the answer to that simple question so often a painful no?
Okay, let's unpack this devotion paradox. You mentioned the painful realities. Maybe we can list some. Because often it's not about, obvious cruelty, is it? It's more subtle.
That's key. It's usually about sustained, subtle disregard. We're talking about someone who might just be generally grumpy around you or really uncommunicative.
Or they just don't give back emotionally.
Right. No reciprocity. Maybe they take days, even weeks sometimes, to answer a text. And the excuse is always, oh, I'm so busy.
Yeah, busy.
Or they consistently put really trivial things ahead of your actual needs, your feelings. It's that emotional hot and cold thing.
Which feels exciting.
It feels exciting, but really it's just chaos. It keeps you hooked, keeps you guessing.
So the person getting all this intense devotion, if you look objectively, they might seem quite flawed, maybe even a bit cruel in their inconsistency.
Objectively, yes.
And yet the devotion doesn't stop. Often it gets stronger the more painful it gets. Now, I have to ask here, are you saying the person being pursued isn't ever genuinely interesting or charming? There must be some initial spark, right?
Oh, absolutely. The initial attraction, the spark, that can be very real. They might be funny, intelligent, charismatic, but it's the mechanism that takes over after that. That's what we need to understand.
Yeah.
The devotion continues, and this is the sad part, not in spite of their lack of kindness or generosity, but often because of it.
Because of it? How?
Because the chaos, the uncertainty, the lack of reliable warmth, it feels incredibly familiar to some people.
Yeah.
On a deep, often unconscious level, it feels high stakes, important.
So somehow the word love gets tangled up not with peace or security, but with striving, with unpredictability, with this deep lack of generosity.
Exactly. That association gets wired in so deeply, often we don't even consciously notice the pain it's causing. We just feel the intensity.
But how does that happen? How does love become linked with suffering, basically?
That's the core question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And for this group of people, that link, that definition of love, it often started very, very early. To understand why we seek this chaos as adults, we really have to look at, well, the difficulties of the past.
Ah, okay. So we're heading back to childhood, the blueprint years.
Precisely. We're looking at a foundational dilemma that some people faced back then. This is where the original trauma often lies. And it can be a really a tough thing to acknowledge.
What was the trauma?
It was encountering deep inconsistency where a child desperately needs stability. Imagine having parents, or whoever your main caregivers were, who should have provided steady, unconditional love.
But they didn't.
But they couldn't or didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe because of their own unresolved issues, their own pain. They might have been inconsistent, demanding, emotionally checked out, or just completely wrapped up in their own world.
So the child needs this constant, kind presence.
And instead they get maybe a vacuum. or a challenge, or love that feels like it has to be earned constantly.
Wow, that's a powerful mental image. A kid just looking up, needing safety and warmth, and finding conditions, doubt, a moving target.
And the child has to make sense of that. To manage that agonizing lack of reliable affection from the very people who should be their safe harbor, they develop these really powerful emotional associations, survival strategies, essentially.
Okay, what kind of associations?
Well, love started to feel like anxiety, like uncertainty, like this endless job of trying to figure out how to earn attention, how to be good enough today.
So love means always hoping.
Always hoping, often in vain, that today will be different, that today they'll finally get that consistent warmth, that comfort they crave. But it rarely comes reliably.
That sounds less like a flaw in the person and more like a really smart, though maybe ultimately painful way to survive an impossible situation as a kid.
It is a survival mechanism, absolutely. And specific coping skills were learned then that show up directly in adult life later.
Like what? What are these skills that become blind spots?
Well, they often learn to be experts at blaming themselves. If a parent was distant or critical, the kid's conclusion wasn't, my parent is struggling or unfair. It was, it must be my fault. I'm not lovable enough yet.
Oh, wow.
They learned incredible patience, the ability to wait days, weeks, for just a crumb of affection or attention. And crucially, they learned never to name the unkindness for what it was.
Why not?
Because calling out the parent's coldness or inconsistency, their hardness of heart, well, that felt far too dangerous. It might mean losing the only potential source of love they had, however unreliable.
So they couldn't see the cruelty clearly back then because acknowledging it was too terrifying.
Exactly.
And now, fast forward to adulthood, those highly practiced survival skills, the self-blame, the endless patience, the refusal to see unkindness, they become this massive blind spot.
Right, which leads them straight back into relationships with the same dynamic. Because when that pattern repeats, the withdrawal, the inconsistency, the feeling of having to earn love,
It doesn't feel wrong.
it doesn't feel toxic. It feels intensely familiar, normal, almost. And we mistake that familiarity for destiny, for deep connection.
The blindness is total because we were trained not to challenge that inconsistency.
It just doesn't occur to us as adults to say, hey, that wasn't okay, right when the bad behavior happens.
Yeah.
We immediately start rationalizing it.
We make excuses for them. We minimize it. That text that went unanswered for 3 days. Oh, they're just so brilliant and busy, they can't be bothered with mundane stuff.
Precisely. Or we fail to do a basic emotional check-in. Like, really ask ourselves, hang on, have I actually been happy in this relationship for the last, say, 6 months?
We just focus on the good moments, the intensity.
We don't register that maybe our partner's behavior isn't charmingly aloof, but actually kind of grossly mocking us by repeatedly wasting our time or taking our kindness completely for granted.
And then when the partner inevitably pulls away, because that's the pattern, right, the inconsistency, what's the automatic response for someone caught in this dynamic? It's not usually setting a boundary.
No, the psychological echo is just too strong. It's often a regression. The response to being ignored or feeling abandoned is frequently to beg, to try harder.
To pursue more.
Yes. To become even more attentive, more devoted, trying to figure out what they need, what you did wrong. We're basically no more able to stand up and ask, wait, is this person actually nice to me now than we were when we were 5 years old?
Desperately trying to win over that inconsistent caregiver.
Right. Because the answer then would also probably have been no, and that was unthinkable.
Ooh, that's the harsh truth, isn't it? That intense feeling, that painful familiarity we chase. We mistake it for deep, mature love. The excitement isn't real chemistry.
It's often the chaotic thrill of replaying that old survival drama from childhood.
So what we think is our soulmate
Might not be a partner destined for us at all. It might simply be someone who perfectly mirrors those old wounds. They provide the stage for us to replay the central trauma of our lives.
And we keep hoping, desperately, that this time
It'll be different. This time, our incredible patience, our unwavering devotion will finally unlock the consistent, kind love we never got back then. But it rarely works that way.
Okay, so if that realization is the first step, understanding the pattern, what comes next? It feels like we need a completely new rule book.
We do. A fundamentally different standard. And for people who are used to fighting for scraps of affection, insisting on simple kindness can feel, completely alien.
It feels boring, or maybe like you're asking for too much.
It can feel alien, yeah, or even scary.
Yeah.
Because peace and stability can feel unstable to a nervous system that's wired for chaos. But the truth, I think, needs to be said very, very bluntly to cut through that old programming.
Lay it on us.
Okay. However charming, however beautiful, successful, or intense someone seems,
Hmm.
the only basis, the true non-negotiable foundation for being with anyone romantically, is if they are consistently, reliably kind to you.
Just kind. That has to be the number one thing.
It has to override everything else. The initial spark, the potential, you see the complexity. Kindness is the baseline, period.
So that means drawing really firm boundaries against that familiar chaos we often mislabel as passion or intensity.
Absolutely. We have to start looking at basic behaviors clearly. For example, if someone tells you they're just not sure if they can commit,
After months or years.
right, there's not romantic uncertainty to overcome. That is a fundamental lack of kindness to your time, your emotions, your investment. And honestly, we shouldn't be there.
Okay, what else?
If they consistently choose, say, hanging out with their friends or pursuing their hobbies over spending meaningful time with you, especially when you need support.
That's not just them being independent.
It might be framed that way, but often it's a clear statement of priorities. If you're consistently an afterthought, that's not kind. We shouldn't be there.
And what about when we're vulnerable? When we express a need?
This is crucial. If you open up, if you're hurting or need support, and their response makes you feel like you're too much or too needy or that your feelings are a burden,
That's a massive red flag.
that's a definitive failure of basic empathy and commitment to your well-being. That's unkind. Full stop. We shouldn't be there.
So we have to stop seeing these things as like obstacles to overcome with more love or more effort from our side.
Exactly. They aren't challenges. They are or should be immediate deal breakers because they show a fundamental lack of the basic ingredient, kindness.
So what's the new mantra then? What kind of person should we be looking for?
It's beautifully simple, really. We should only invest our hearts in kind and keen people.
Kind and keen. I like that.
People who listen, people who show up reliably, people who are genuinely interested in and committed to our welfare, not just when it's easy, but consistently.
And anyone else, anyone who offers that chaos, that inconsistency, that lack of basic consideration.
They aren't really a potential partner, are they? They're more like a residue of trauma, a person whose presence mainly serves to let you re-experience the pain of the past, hoping for a different outcome that they simply can't provide.
Wow. That shift in perspective, it just cuts through so much confusion. It's almost shocking how simple it is, yet how deeply hidden. Our deepest romantic feelings might actually be echoes of old pain.
Our instincts might be wired to seek out that familiar, painful chaos because our nervous system learned long ago to confuse that intensity with love itself.
So the biggest lesson from this deep dive seems to be about recognizing that true, healthy love needs that foundation of simple, consistent kindness.
That's the core insight. But maybe the final thought to leave you with, the deeper provocation, is this. What does it actually feel like to finally give yourself permission to insist on that?
To insist on just niceness.
Yes, to insist on that basic standard of kindness without apology. What happens when you stop chasing the complexity, the drama, the intensity, and realize that the chaos you thought was passion was actually just the suffering you learned so brilliantly to survive?
What happens then?
That, I think, is the moment you truly begin to demand and create a calmer, kinder, more deserving life for yourself. The life you always needed.